Welcome back, everybody, to the This Day podcast. I'm Megan, and I am so honored that you would join us for the podcast. Today, coming to you on the podcast, we have a sweet new friend joining us. Her name is Jade, and she is a part of the band Table. Jade has an incredible story of what God is doing in her life, and I cannot wait for you guys to tune in to listen to her story. So now, after a quick word from our sponsor, please join in and listen to Jade and I's conversation together. We are so excited to partner with a wellness company for this season of the podcast. This incredible wellness company is just like if you were to shop from Amazon, Target, or Walmart. You can get everything you need from your home right from this wellness company, and it comes directly delivered to your door, and everything is American made. How incredible is that? You can check out the link to shop the wellness company in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show, and you can get to know our new friend, Jade. Well, Jade, I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. Thanks so much for taking the time and just hopping on here and joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself, what you do, you in music, you're in a band, you have new music out right now. So just break it all down for people. What are you about? What is your heart?
Yeah, oh, awesome. So, really, my biggest passion, I'm a mom of three girls, and I've been married for over 20 years. This summer, I'm celebrating my 23rd wedding anniversary. So, really, in my day-to-day life, I am a mom. I wear a lot of hats. I love the different hats that I get to wear. Being in a band is one of them that is super fun. I am a part of the band Table, and we released our first album back in February, and that's where I met you, was
Yes.
out touring with the band, which was so much fun. So I love being a part of the band Table. I work for my church, actually. I am a pastor at my church here in Pittsburgh. And so ministry is one of my, I wouldn't call it a hat that I wear. I feel like it's everything I do is ministry, but working at my church is certainly one of the hats that I wear. I'm the pastor of worship and spiritual formation. So heavily involved every week at my church. It's a huge part of my life, a huge part of my family, and just a huge part of my calling, I feel like, is to our local church here in Pittsburgh. I'm also releasing music for myself under Jade Lundgren. So I've got an album that's coming out, I think, in September, and just released my first single a couple weeks ago, a song called Miss You Like Crazy. I'm a passionate songwriter. I love writing. So that is, I am with people in songs as a songwriter and an artist, and absolutely love that so much. And I don't know, and then I dip my hand in a lot of other things too, but I'd say that short list keeps me real busy.
I love it, Jade. And I love that you're just like when I first met you, you were just so passionate about what you did and what you were pursuing. Like you could really tell that it was just part of not it wasn't who you were, like it wasn't your identity, but you just loved what you were doing. Like you didn't care if you were singing to an arena of people, if you were singing to one person, you were there to just be there and pursue Jesus. And you can sense that now, even.
Thank you for that, Megan. I appreciate it. Thank you.
But ultimately, so how did you get into doing what you're doing? How did you get into ministry? Um, Talk about, stepping into that journey.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So I didn't grow up like in a real true like kind of Christian home. I would say that we went to church sometimes growing up, but many times just it wasn't part of our life. And so I really didn't take my faith seriously at all, or walk with Jesus, I would say, until I was 16 years old. So at the age of 16, I was living I knew I wasn't living right. And it's weird that I knew that. I just knew I was making choices that were bad for me. And at the age of 16, someone dragged me to a Bible study. Like I didn't want to go. And this girl was like, "No, you're coming with me." And I went, and it was one of those moments where I sat there listening to these people I didn't know very well talk about the Bible and talk about Jesus. And I was like, yeah, they're right. Like, I just, something within me was like, yeah, this is the right way to live. And you don't have this. Like, something within me was like, you need this. And so that's when I became a Christian. I just kind of accepted Jesus without really even knowing what that meant. And so it was my junior year of high school, actually.
Wow.
So thankfully, a mentor that year, this person who was leading the Bible study, kind of realized I was such a new Christian. And he was like, you're so new in your faith, you should go to a Christian college. And I was like, okay, maybe I should. And so I stumbled upon Wheaton College and I went, my parents were a little bit skeptical at first of kind of like my new faith. They were kind of like, "What are you doing? Like, are you in a cult? Like, what's going on?" And so I had to really take the time to kind of show them my faith was real, and um, I really was just following the Lord, and they were okay with me going to a Christian college. I originally went in wanting to study law. Like, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to maybe go into politics. I don't know. And I remember, so I stumbled into ministry. Like my freshman year at Wheaton, I'm looking at the course list and there's there's a class on C.S. Lewis. And I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. And they're like, there's a class on prayer. There's a class on youth ministry. And I was like, these sound amazing. And so literally I was like, these are the classes I want to take. And so I kind of just signed up for all these Christian ministry classes. And within my second semester at Wheaton, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to be a ministry major. Like, these are all the classes I'm interested in. Like, anything that had to do with sharing your faith and studying the Bible, I was all in. So I just kind of became a ministry major. And I did realize, I think because I had lived 16 years really without knowing the Lord well and without knowing the Bible, that I was kind of ready to be like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Like, I want to lead people to Jesus and I want to study God's word. And so I did kind of pretty quickly, once I started taking ministry classes, realize evangelism was what I wanted to do. I wanted to share my faith. I wanted to share about the Lord with others. I wanted people to experience the massive change that had happened in my heart and in my whole life. I wanted people to get to experience that. So I feel like evangelism was and is probably um my whole focus
Yeah.
is I want to lead people to the Lord. And I'll do that in whatever capacity I can, whether it's music or whether it's working at a church, or whether that's other things that I've dipped my toe into, like design or home stuff or fitness, like random things that I've done. It's all to me about I want to lead people to Jesus. So anyway, yeah, that's how I kind of went into ministry. It was just a different way of heading there.
I love that though. And I love what you said that evangelism happens wherever you're at and whatever you're doing. I think that's so powerful because so many times I think especially in the Christian culture, we almost see evangelism happens when you're in the church or when you're doing the Christian activities, but that's often not the case. Evangelism can happen whether you're, the
Yeah.
teacher at the school or doing like you said, home design, whatever your job is, you can make that your type of evangelism. And I think that's so, so good.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's well said. I think really just loving people well, whatever you're doing, loving people well, sharing God's love with them, that's what it's all about. You can
Yeah,
do that no matter what career you're in or no matter what you're up to in life. There's usually someone that the Lord has you around that you can love and share him with them.
absolutely. I was talking to a friend. It's so funny that you brought that up, and I love that you did. I was talking to a friend just literally 2 days ago about this. And we were both saying we feel that, our calling so often, especially whether it's in music or just in Christian ministry, they're so challenged by culture because, we want to achieve the next thing or get to the next level, whatever it may be. It's all like achievement based. But I said to her, and I was like, but really, like, God calls us to do two things in life, and that's to love Him and to love others. Like, once we believe that fully, like, we can step out and really move forward in knowing that, hey, like, wherever I go in my calling, like, God just says to love Him and to love others, and that can break free all of those chains.
Absolutely. I feel like my sort of what I'm doing now, like I walked through so many years where in some ways anyone from the outside would have looked at me and been like, you're not even doing anything. Like there was years where I was having kids. I was mostly at home with them. I was supporting my husband. There was a long stretch where my husband decided to go to medical school, and we just oriented our whole life around making that happen for him. And I think the cool thing is like just what you said, like whatever you're doing in life, whether you're in a season that seems like you're doing all the things like you thought you'd want to do, or whether you're in a season where you feel like you're doing nothing that you're like called to do or supposed to do, right? You can always love. You can always grow in just loving the Lord. You can always grow in loving others. And sometimes it's those kind of like low times of life where I feel like the Lord teaches you even more how to love others because you have compassion. You go through hard stretches where it just softens your heart to where you love better because you kind of went through that, you know?
Yeah,
Um, and I think always in the kingdom of God, like um, going up is sometimes going down, and sometimes going down is going up. And times where it might seem like I'm I feel like I'm trending down. Like I'm not climbing any ladders.
yeah,
I'm doing these roles in life where like I'm just changing diapers all day. Like I'm not doing anything glamorous. You know, like those are the times where I feel like the Lord just he just develops your character, and he multiplies fruit in your life if you let him, you know? So I think the times in life where it seemed like I was going low, um, it just in the Lord's economy, he doesn't waste that. Like you're actually growing, you're actually like trending up, but like it might not look that way in anyone else's eyes or even sometimes in your own eyes, but he definitely he takes you low to grow you into who he wants you to be, you know?
absolutely. I think that's so good. Can you think of a time in your life or in your story when God got you to a point where you were like, you know, I'm to a point where I'm just so low right now that,
Yeah.
man, it's just me and you, Jesus. Like we're just on this journey together.
Oh, for sure. I actually have a very vivid moment where that happened for me. I I was so I it was a season of life where my youngest, so I have three daughters.
Yeah.
They're older now. I have two in high school, one in middle school. So
Oh,
they're
good.
really getting quite grown up. But when my youngest was a baby, she was 1 year old. So my other daughters were probably like 5 and 6,
Yeah.
um, 1, 5 and 6, or 1, 4 and 5, something like that.
Yeah.
So pretty young. Like the kids were pretty young. And I was trying to like get back a little into like songwriting and in the music world. And so I had just come out of a stretch of like raising them and being home with them. And I was still getting my husband through residency. Like he was gone all the time working. And I remember so Anna is my youngest. She was 1 year old, 1 year, and she actually I was leading worship at a little women's event, which was rare for me. At the time, I would like maybe occasionally lead worship, like for little events, but not very often. And I was mostly at home with the kids. I was leading worship at a women's event, and while I was there, my parents were babysitting her, and she literally, of her own accord, ran and jumped off their bed, and she broke her femur.
Oh my
She
God.
like landed on her knee and it broke her right femur. And it was bad. Like breaking your femur is terrible at any age of life.
Yeah.
I had to leave the event, and my husband left work. We went down to Children's Hospital. And when you break a femur when you're that age, they put you in a half body cast. So she had a cast that was like from here down both legs with like a hole for her diaper, which was just, I wish I could like flash you a picture of this because it was really, and she would not take any pain meds. She vomited everything up. She was shaking in pain. And it was just the worst thing to go through as a parent. For me, it was like the worst thing I'd ever gone through, like that night, just her pain level. And like they had to push her bone back together. Like it was just a whole terrible day or two at Children's Hospital. And then you take her home in this half body cast. She can't even sit. You're like carrying her around, like plopping her on like a beanbag. Like she can't even like sit up anymore. She was like walking and crawling. She couldn't move, and it was miserable. I mean, she was in so much pain, crying constantly. And I remember I was upstairs in her room holding her in a rocking chair. She's crying. I can't seem to console her. And I remember just trying to rock her to sleep, and I was exhausted. I had barely slept. I could sleep in like 15-minute increments, and then she would cry. And like, I felt like I hit my lowest, and I could barely like handle my other two kids at home because I have this other daughter in a cast, and our whole family got the flu. So on top of like this
Oh no.
situation, all like sick as a dog. And I just cried. I was rocking Anna in this awkward cast, and I'm just crying to the Lord. And I'm like, I felt like I was like, hands up. Like I resign. Like I'm done. I give up control. Like this life is not mine. If this is, I felt so like, I was like, Lord, I just surrender everything to you because I feel like my life right now is I'm barely surviving every hour. I can't do this on my own. And I remember just thinking like it was the deepest feeling of just like resignation in the best terms that I possibly ever had. I was like, if I never do anything ever again, if I can never leave my house, if I can never get past having kids and babies, like if I never do anything, like I'm okay. I laid down all my dreams, all my rights. Like every hour wasn't even my own. Like every 15 minutes wasn't even like mine. I was like, I laid down all that's mine, all that I think is mine, and I just simply give you everything.
Yeah.
And I think that was just an important moment in my life, a very like important, I think, turning point for me of realizing, I think in a lot of ways you have to come to a complete resignation when it comes to God, and just this feeling of like my life is not my own. It's not my own. I can't try to control everything. Um, I can give up all my dreams. I can give up all my rights. Like you give up so much, especially as a mom. You give up your body, you give up your time. And I think that was just like that was it for me with the Lord. It was like I feel like I'm at rock bottom, but I give up everything. I'm okay. And he met me there, like he was like, I'm with you.
Mhm.
Like I'll walk this out with you. And he did. He taught me so much during that little stretch while Anna was in this terrible contraption. And um I think something deep within me just changed during that time. I laid down everything. I would have at that point forward, if the Lord would have been like, whatever he would have said to me, like, you're doing this the rest of your life, or you're gonna go here, I would have been like, okay, I'll do whatever. I'm good. So yeah, I hope that made sense.
That did. I love that. And I love how you really were like, hey God, like whatever happens, like I'm solely reliant on you. And I think so often like we get to a point where we rely on like other people around us or we rely on whatever is happening, like whatever else we have going on in the world. And we
Mhm.
forget that like, hey, we have Jesus. We can put everything on him and we can just trust him with all that he is.
Mhm.
So I just love that you just got to the point where you were like, I just want Jesus, and that's enough for me.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember around that same time, I had all three of my kids at the grocery store. I was at Aldi and like finagling all three of my children. I feel like one of them was like crying and two of them were grabbing stuff off the shelves. And I saw this mom. She was the person in front of me at the checkout line, and she was taking care of an older, like special needs son of hers. And the way she had to just be in tune with him, and every move, every second, she was just so in tune with him and what he needed. And um something about seeing her made me realize that, like, you know, this mom's been doing this for so long. He was clearly older. He was probably a teenager or even early 20s. And I was like, this mom has been doing this her whole life. Like, you could just tell and you could see it on her. And there was something in me where I remember just the Lord being like, I see her. I see what she's doing. I see the way every second of that mom's life seemed like it was like just sacrifice over and over again. And in that moment, it's like I could feel the Lord's heart for her. Like, I'm so proud of what you're doing. Like, I see the way you're loving and giving every second of the day. And there was something about that where I was just kind of like, um, that's like the Lord sees that, and like nobody else would see that. This woman, this mom seems so humble. It's not like she probably had some special title in life or like role, or like no one probably knew who she was. Seemed like a very just humble, hardworking mom. And I felt like, like she's gonna be so great in the kingdom of heaven. Like, there was something about the way that she served her son that I just felt like it pleased the Lord so much. And oftentimes I feel like it's what we do in quiet or like behind the scenes. And it's what we do when we just love and serve that make us the greatest, not like the things that I think people see or that are like flashier. It's so much just about serving the Lord. And I don't know that there's something beautiful when we think about like how Jesus chooses to spell out like the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, right? He didn't really need to tell us, but he did. And it was like, the servant of all is the greatest. And there was something about that mom that made me see it in the flesh of like she was just serving constantly. And I want to serve constantly no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm at home or whether I'm at work or whether I'm out with the band or whatever. I want to serve well.
Yeah,
And sometimes that can look really cool, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's very humble and very behind the scenes.
absolutely. It goes back to the statement that we're all equal at the foot of the cross. Like, not one of us is above the next person, no
Yeah.
matter the title we have, no matter the job that we have, we're all level when it comes
Yeah,
to
for
business.
sure. For sure.
Now, we haven't talked too much about, your music, the band table, all the things. So tell us more about the new song that you have out and, how it came about when you wrote it.
Yeah, for sure. So the song I just released is called Miss You Like Crazy. And it started, um, so my oldest daughter, she is a senior this year. She's going to be a senior this year. She just finished up her junior year. And so I've been processing. I feel like as soon as she stepped into high school, like it was a dramatic shift. I was like, oh my goodness, I have a daughter in high school. And it's almost like I saw this countdown clock over her head of like 4 years left, 3 years left. Like you see this
Yeah.
countdown clock of like, you have this many Christmases left at home. You have this many summers left. I saw that happen as soon as she entered high school. And then her sister right behind her, like they're one grade apart. And so these last like 2 years, I've been processing like, wow, this is going so fast. And my oldest daughter is going to be out soon. She'll be off to college. Sometimes you don't even come home in your summers. Like once you're in college, it's like you're kind of out the door and who knows where you'll be after that.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter and I feel like we're very alike in personality. We're both homebodies. We love just being home, watching movies or the Gilmore Girls, or like
Yes.
we just love to hang out and spend a lot of time together. I feel like my husband and my other two daughters are just kind of like, let's go do this. Let me go out with friends. Let me be here and there. They're more like, let's get busy. And me and my oldest daughter are like, let's cozy up and just like cuddle our dog and watch a movie. And so I feel like consequently, like there's so many Friday nights where it's just me and my oldest daughter, Lucia. And we've just had so much time together. And it was a Friday night. We had spent the Friday night like watching a cute little movie together. And the next morning, Saturday morning, I woke up early. I'm really big on waking up early and journaling, like just as a writer.
Yeah.
That's to me, I think one of the best habits to keep is just being a journaler and just constantly filling journals. So I woke up early and I try not to overthink when I journal. And I remember I was just writing. I was like, oh, it was so fun with Lucia last night. And I was like, what am I gonna do on these Friday nights when like she's gone to college, like, and what if everyone else is busy and like I'm gonna miss my buddy. Like I'm gonna miss her so much. And so I just literally wrote like I'm gonna miss her like crazy. And then I was like, I just start thinking in songs. So
Yeah.
then I'm gonna miss her like crazy. And then I just start writing some lyrics, processing those feelings. And then I started thinking of a melody. I wrote a bunch, and then I came over to my piano and just kind of started playing around. And that's where the song started. I remember I early on decided like I think I'm gonna play it for her. And so I said, Lucia, I'm working on this song about you. And she came over to the piano and I just started singing it. And like I look over at her and she's like bawling and I'm sitting there and I'm like crying. And it just became a song about how much I'm going to miss her when she's gone.
Yeah.
And I kind of got a point on that song where I felt a little bit stuck on it. And so I reached out to one of the band table members, my friend Cliff Preston, and he had lost his dad. Maybe it was 5 years ago when we wrote the song. I can't remember what year his dad passed, but he was very close to his dad. And I knew that Cliff knew the pain of missing somebody. And so I asked him, would you help me finish this song? I do want it to be a song that relates to anybody who misses anybody. And so he helped me finish it. And yeah, we finished it pretty quickly. And then I had him, I'm like, well, send me a work tape. I want to hear you singing it. And so he sent me a work tape of him singing it. And I was like, Cliff, he's like a country sounding guy. He brought this like country sound to it. And I was like, Cliff, you need to record this song too. Like, I know like I want to record this for sure, but like you need to do a version of it. So actually, he just released it too. So we both did versions of Miss You Like Crazy with our own kind of style on it. And it's just a special song to both of us. And I feel like it's been relating, it's something people relate to. It's a hard feeling to miss somebody in life,
Yeah.
um and so I think it's a song that helps people feel that and work through that feeling of missing somebody. So anyway, that's it about the song.
I love it, Jade, and I love the song. I think it's so, so, so good.
Thank
Um,
you.
I can totally relate. So all my family is in Pennsylvania still, and I'm here in Nashville.
Nice.
So we definitely go through times, if not weekly, where I'm like, man, I wish I could be with you guys for this or that.
Mhm.
So it's definitely, there's always moments where I'm missing them.
Yeah, for sure. Come up to Pennsylvania anytime.
I would love to. I would love to. I do miss, especially in the summer when it gets really hot down here. I miss the nice Pennsylvania summers.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is so beautiful. Jade, thanks so much for hopping on the podcast today. It was so, so fun. I love you, love our conversation. It was so, so sweet.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy.
Well, it is always a joy to talk to you, sweet friend. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the This Day podcast with our friend Jade. I pray that you know how loved you are by the King of the universe. Stay up to date with everything happening with our ministry.